Hi, Dan.
Hey.
So I heard you were there when Vianney and Scott met. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
I can tell you a little bit about that. Yeah, it was a funny night. Scott used to live in this place that was right by the beach where fireworks were. So, prime viewing location. So, it was me, Eric, Dave, and Scott that were getting together to watch this fireworks situation, right?
And Raquel invited me to go see the fireworks. It was just going to be the two of us. But then later she told me that a friend had invited her to go see the fireworks at this apartment.
We decided we're going to have dinner at this Chinese restaurant called Hans. We nicknamed it Dirty Hans. So it's not the classiest joint in town. Anyways, Eric, Dave, and I show up, and we get our table. Scott eventually shows up, takes his seat, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna have two friends join me too." And we're like, "Yeah, whatever, cool, man." And honestly, when he said that two friends were coming, I literally pictured, goateed dudes with pot bellies scratching themselves. It just, two unsavory individuals that were going to join us. All of a sudden, these two stunning beauties walk to the table and like they were supposed to be there, and we were like, I just was like, what is this? And Scott stands up and greets them, and personally I was like, I started doing up my shirt, straightening myself out. What's going on here? And these were, it just wasn't two girls. Like, these girls were dressed up. They were really pretty. And so we were all quite taken aback. Eric, Dave, and I think it was quite collective. We were looking around, making eye contact, being like, what is going on here? What is this? So there was this girl, Rochelle, and Vianney.
Actually, her name is Raquel.
So we finished our food and paid our bill. And so we go outside, and right next door is this place that sells bubble tea, right? Yeah, oh man, I'm gonna have bubble tea for sure. So go inside, and Scott's like, no, I'm not gonna have any bubble tea, I'm good.
I'm personally not a fan of bubble tea. Never was, never have been. Plus, it was another opportunity just to be nonchalant, I guess.
So he stays outside, right? He stays outside, smoking a cigarette. The coolest thing to do in whatever year it was.
Yeah, it was 2013. Was it 2014? It was 2014.
So he's outside. He may have been by himself outside. And so we're inside, me, Rochelle, Vianney. I think Dave was in there as well. Eric was probably watching sports somewhere and having a great time. We're getting along, and it's fun in there. But Rochelle just keeps sort of looking outside and is like, why is Scott not in here with us? Why is he not getting a bubble tea with us? I don't understand. He's smoking. Who smokes anymore? I don't know. Right? So we get our bubble tea and we move on. And I'm just like, oh my lord. I'm just thinking to myself, like, Scott is really messing this one up. He's not doing so well. And so we start to walk back to Scott's place. Vianney and I were trailing behind, and we were just talking. And I was like, yeah, right on. This girl's cool. So we go up to Scott's place eventually. We get there, and we all start sitting around, and Vianney noticed a camera underneath his coffee table. So Vianney says, oh, are you a photographer?
I don't talk like that.
And so Scott's like, oh yeah, I'm a photographer, of course. I take pictures, I'm a picture taker. At that point, he reaches underneath the coffee table, right, in between his legs, and pulls out his, groomed 35mm lens, right? And she is very impressed at this. And it was just like thick in the air. And at that moment, sealed the deal. Rochelle was like, ooh, right? And just making it obvious. It was so obvious.
Camera? There wasn't a camera. What actually happened is that Scott decided to display his photography on this huge screen in this tiny apartment, so there's nowhere to look but that wall. So of course I will notice, like, yeah, and that's when I asked, like, oh, are those your pictures? Because they were good. So I asked him, he's like, yeah, they are, and so are all of this. I'm like, impressive. And yeah, that's when Raquel went, ooh, and everybody just started laughing. I was like, oh, okay, embarrassing.
And it was magic from there, right? It was just thick in the air, and sparks just started to fly. Magical pixie dust was over these two. Eventually, it's time to go and watch the fireworks, right? So we go downstairs, take our position. Vianney and Scott are kind of like, touching hands softly a little bit, maybe a little bit of that, like kind of like leaning into each other, and then a little bit of that. Right? Just shameless stuff.
So we went downstairs, and this is where I kind of figured that V was starting, like I kind of picked up on that V was kind of digging me, because when we were standing there waiting for the fireworks to start, I noticed that she was kind of just standing a little close.
I was not leaning towards Scott at all. It was so cold, and I only had a jean jacket, so I was trying to shield myself from all the wind that was happening, and like, no, I wasn't leaning towards you. It's just, I was interested, but it's not like I was trying myself to you.
And so fireworks go on, fireworks happen, fireworks finish, and we don't know. We had no plans after that. We didn't know what we were gonna do. So then. I can't remember who suggested karaoke. Of course, I suggested karaoke. Because I have a karaoke problem. So we decide, yeah, let's go to karaoke. Sounds awesome. And Vianney was like, yeah, I'll go to karaoke. That sounds awesome. Right? And Scott, of course, like, he was just like, Vianney's going to karaoke? Okay, I'm going to karaoke as well. So we decide, okay, it's karaoke time. And Rochelle, I don't even remember saying goodbye to Rochelle.
Raquel, Dan. Raquel. How hard is to say Raquel?
She probably just like sprinted from there, took off. We then walked to the karaoke joint, and the karaoke began. Scott and V were just sat right beside each other, and they were so cutesy wootsy, just like, oblivious to the completely out of tune singing that we were doing, right? Just flittering eyelids. It was gorgeous. So then we did our hour of karaoke. I probably pushed it to 2 hours, and then we went outside, and Vianney needed to get home. So Scott was quick to offer V a ride home.
So we walked back to his apartment, and that was actually the first time he held my hand. We weren't touching before then. He held my hand just walking to his apartment to get the car.
At that point, they got into his chariot and rode into the night. And it's been magic ever since. That's my story. That's all I got.
Very good.
The cool thing is that our first date started at 3 p.m. and it actually ended at 3 a.m. with a ride to my car. So it was a 12-hour first date and a lot of fun. And I'm guessing it's going to be this much fun for the rest of our lives.
It's an amazing day, and I look forward to many, many more with my new beautiful wife.
Oh, you guys guys are so cute.